Welcome to the Underground, my little underground with Peter A.
It's my little underground. I'm Peter A. To kick off 2025, I got my good friend Miranda Elliot, who performs as Old Man of the Woods and also one half of the electronic duo The Stalk. Miranda talks about fitting into Seattle and how this has become her adult home, and she also talks about growing a kinship with the Seattle music community. And she tells a great paranormal story about re-recording a track from the first Old Man of the Woods album. And regarding Old Man of the Woods, she has her Tryptich series out, and she talks about all the new music she has coming out with The Stalk, and she explains how she balances multiple music projects. Please help me welcome back to my little underground my good friend Miranda Elliot, Old Man of the Woods, and The Stalk, right here on my little underground.
My little underground.
It's so good to see you again, Miranda. How the hell
So
are you?
good to see you. I'm good. I'm good. I feel like, yeah, it's fun being back east. It's nice getting like an art fix in New York.
Yeah. I know you've
Yeah,
been in Seattle since what? 2022, right?
2021 actually. I moved at like
2021.
the exact time that Votives came out. Like I think I
Right.
moved in September and it came out in October. So
Yeah, I don't know why I had it in my head it was 2022 because I know we talked in person actually. I think right before
yeah,
you did the move.
that's true.
Um
That was sweet.
so do you feel more connected to the Seattle music scene and just generally speaking? Or do you have a
Mm,
kinship with people outside of music and arts out there?
yeah. No, I feel very like at home in Seattle. Now. I think that the music scene is really, I guess it has maybe more space for like the kind of music that I make than I think what I like interpreted back here, which like probably isn't true. I think it's just that I started performing in Seattle. So I'm like, wow, so many opportunities. But it feels like I think just like something about the atmosphere there, honestly, probably that it's quite dark. Um, Seems to have like more interest in like dark atmospheric electronic-y stuff. Like I think that's just kind of what it sounds like there. So people are curious about it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've definitely have met so many people that I like really admire, and it's been really fun starting to play shows. Like that was not a part of my life at all when I put out music before. And I only really started doing that like 2 years ago, I think. Um, so yeah, I definitely feel like I've kind of like I think that we're always carving out a space. Like I'm still think that I'm like kind of between genres, you know, it's always gonna be a little bit like ubiquitous or like yeah. I don't think it's ever gonna be like I make hard rock and I like know what venues I'm supposed to play at. Like there's never gonna be like a clear thing for the kind of music that I'm attracted to making. But it seems like there's a lot of like interest and curiosity in it there, which I'm really grateful for.
But I think that's the kind of artist you are.
Oh yeah.
Because today I'm listening to Votives again, and you're all over the place, right? Garden is very danceable, right? But then
Thank you.
like Let Me Miss You is very ballady.
Yeah.
But you've definitely gone more so into the danceable realm, which we'll talk about later. But let me ask you this, right? So you said Seattle, you definitely feel like it's home now. Do you feel Seattle is more home than Richmond?
Hmm. I don't think I don't think I feel like ready emotionally to answer that. I think that it feels like a different kind of home. Richmond, I think will always feel like home. Like I'm of the mind that you can have many homes in many places. And like what a cool life that is. Um, yeah, I think that Richmond is so like nostalgic and feels like a little cocoon to me. Like it's just like where I became a person. Um, and I still have so many people that like mean so much to me here and they're like really inspiring and wonderful. So I can't really imagine ever being like, nah, like I don't associate with this place. Um, because it does just like I think I am just such a sucker. So I'm like I'm always gonna love it here. But I think that Seattle feels more like my kind of adult home, you know. It's like I'm meeting new parts of myself. Like I think I kind of needed to get out of what I knew in order to grow in a lot of ways that feel like more authentic to who I am now. So Richmond's home too, but it's all different kinds of home. Seattle's like my dark, freaky, like gloomy home, and Richmond's like a warm, wonderful home. And you can hear that in my music.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So you in Seattle, you still live alone, right?
yeah, yeah,
And you grew up an only child, right? So
that is true.
now, and maybe back then when you were younger, do you ever feel this sense of loneliness? And if
Hmm.
so, how have you kind of overcome that? I think I asked you this a few years ago, but I want to know where you're at with this now, a few years later.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
I wish I remembered how I answered before, and I am curious to like go back and listen. Um, I think probably, I mean, of course, like I experience loneliness. I don't really as much in Seattle, or like I don't feel like that's something that I like have butted up against often lately. If anything, it's like the opposite where I feel incredibly fragmented and like I'm doing too much. I'm like, ah, but I think some of maybe not feeling like that same like deep loneliness is from performing or like putting myself out there in new ways that are very like real life. Like there's something about embodying the art that I make that feels very personal, like in public, that I feel like has kind of unlocked like my ability to just relate to people in a way that feels more like vulnerable and real. Um, and yeah, I think even though I live alone and stuff, yeah, I feel pretty connected. Like I feel kind of like I'm in a little mycelial network, you know, out there and here in a way that I don't know if I felt before when I was kind of more sequestered and like creating like in a vacuum almost.
So social media definitely creates like a facade, right?
Yeah.
So people are posting things and you think, oh, their life is so perfect, etc. But when I see you on social media, you are it seems like you're very connected to the Seattle music scene. You're on this bill, you're talking about how much you love this artist and that artist. And I just see it happen. Like,
Mm.
is the picture I'm painting accurate? And because you're saying you feel very connected, so like, is what I'm seeing a reality?
I hope so. I mean, it is how I feel. Of
Yeah,
course, like I don't know a billion people too. Like it's all still I'm like I still feel new even though I have been there for a minute. So it's not as if I'm just like everywhere and everyone's friend or something. But I feel like I've met a lot of people that I look up to a lot and that are making stuff that like really excites me. So yeah, I mean, I think it's true. Like, of course, I'm not posting like all of the bad days that I'm having because like I can't get on my phone on those days. So,
right.
but I think that what you're seeing is definitely honest of how I feel there.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a great scene.
exactly. But not like you're painting a false narrative of who you
Yeah,
are. But when
yeah.
when I'm seeing your stuff, I see, like a Seattle tourism guide. Like, if I go to
No.
Seattle, I gotta go to this spot. I gotta see
Yeah.
this person. I gotta see this act. That's what I see.
Yeah, come on out. I'll tell you what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about, as far as Old Man of the Woods is concerned, your Triptych EP series, right?
Hmm.
So it's going to be a series, right? Because you
Yeah.
labeled the first one as, yeah. So is it going to be connected narratively speaking, or is it just going to be a loose concept between two other EPs?
I see it more as like there's gonna be three, you know, because threes and whatever, you know, threes, threes, threes. I don't know that they are like, I'm honestly still finishing the last one, so there's a part of me that's like TBD. But I see them more as like little narratives to themselves, and I think I'm just having fun with like that as a format of like presenting music and like an aesthetic world. Um, because I feel like this triptych, like the first one, Devolve, is very much like kind of its own little like 3 panel song and artwork experience that's very like villain arc. Um, and I guess that they will all form like a narrative of sorts together as well. But I think that like the point of having them in a series is almost just because I know that, I mean, I think everyone's attention spans have gone down to some degree. And I feel like Votives is this like, it took me so long to figure out how to present this like crazy all over the place album that I like really adore, but I just have not been able to figure out how to do that with my new work. Like I keep making stuff and being like, I think that like small groups of these like really talk to each other, but like forming some like really large album of them like just isn't like, it doesn't feel quite right yet. So I think that like presenting them in these little series that are more like moments and like vignettes almost just felt kind of more honest to the work itself and like really fun for me because I love creating like weird art and kind of like, I don't know, I guess creating more of a world around stuff just feels exciting to me versus like continuing to put off putting out an album because I can't like do the 10 song thing that feels quite right ordering wise. I think I just care a lot about like this cohesive thing being like a little Fabergé egg that I love. And because that wasn't happening in a larger format thing, yeah, that's sort of where like the triptych idea was born. Where I was like, I want to start releasing these because I've been like honestly playing them live for like the past year or so, just because I keep like writing stuff that's kind of more fun and weird and is like more fun for me to perform than a lot of my stuff from Votives, which I really love, but like a lot of it's kind of sad. Like it's, I think it's kind of like headphones music to some degree, not necessarily like getting up on stage and like having a great time throwing it down music. Um, so I feel like there's room for it for sure. Uh, but yeah, I guess just like what I've been attracted to writing more recently seems kind of all over the place and like putting them together in smaller ways has felt really fun and more like satisfying for me. So that's where that came from. And I just got like really obsessed with medieval art. So it's
Yeah.
like a very ADD experience of being like, now I like this thing. Okay, cool. Let's just like go down the rabbit hole and do it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And lyrically, I'm listening to this, and it's, you're, it's little bits of erotica, a little bits of just, you know, kind of mental unstableness, just kind of losing it.
Yeah.
uh, is
Accurate.
right. Is it a reflection of what you're feeling, or is it just, I'm just creating this absurd character because I'm just, like you said, I'm just into the weird and freaky stuff?
I mean, I would say all of my stuff is fortunately or unfortunately like autobiographical. So it's you are hearing me, but I do think I have been having more fun with like the idea of like persona in some ways. So maybe going like more absurd than I would have before or like extrapolating in some ways. Some of it is also, I think, when I was preparing to start performing, almost in the same way as like finding the old man of the woods moniker and being like, this is what I want to like kind of shroud myself in. I sort of was doing like character building in some ways of being like, what could I present as on stage that like feels like almost safer than being myself, or like more empowering than just showing up and being like, I'm Miranda, like, here are my songs. Um, because like no one wants to watch that. I don't want to do that. Like that's not fun. Um, so I think that like in kind of exploring like what alter ego what I want to be, and I don't have like a name for her or anything, but I think I just went like full sort of like gothic, more feminine in some ways, but definitely like darker and more in touch with like the kind of like erotic, like envious, honestly, just kind of like, yeah, I would say like darker themes as a person, and like not being so scared of that, and instead kind of like trying to embrace it and like almost like explore that shadow side, uh, was what I decided would be more fun on stage. And I think that that's like translated across the board now into what I'm making, where like exploring that side of myself is now like a lot of the material that I'm working with, like narrative wise too. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's true, but I also think it's important to make not just sad songs. That was the thing that I came out of Votives being like, I'm not just gonna be a sad girl. Like I'm gonna start making some like weird, even if they're like kind of uncomfortable at first. Like I just started writing, I think, stuff that felt more like villainous or like spiteful. I was like, you know what? Sure. Like, let's do it. Let's see where that goes. Like, this isn't something that I've allowed myself to do before. Um,
Good.
yeah, that's
I'm
been
glad
fun.
you're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I came out of Votives. Um, I love the grooves, and musically, your production techniques are very interesting. A lot of vocal layering, just kind of flying around you like a ghost. It's just, it's quite a listen. It really is. When you really just sit back and listen to, there's a lot going on the on Votives, and I'm just excited to see the path that you're taking sonically. So let me miss you, the scorched version, right?
Mm-mm.
What made you want to re-record this?
Hmm. This was like specifically for all the live stuff that I've been talking about because
Right.
I love Let Me Miss You so much, but I like could not bring myself to play a ukulele on stage.
I figured that.
But I actually will say I recently got like this really crazy black ukulele that like it looks insane. It looks like a mini little like electric guitar, but it kind of looks like it has horns, like the whole thing. I've never seen a ukulele that looks like it before, and it's electric. And I have a goal of like becoming like a weird pedal person and like doing some version of Let Me Miss You live that is with uke, because I think that that'd be really fun. And it would just be fun to like play something that isn't a synth for like a couple of songs, but have it sound nothing like um, a uke. So maybe someday. But the reason that I made the Scorch version was because I like really love that song, and like it holds a very special place in my heart. But I just like it didn't really fit with the energy of what I was presenting. But I knew that it had it. It just like wasn't sonically right in its original form. Um, so yeah, I made a new one, and that's the one that I've been performing the whole time. Um, and it's kind of fun. It's like I think that part of my process has always been remixing my own songs, and like a lot of what ended up on Votives wasn't the original version of anything. It was like version 4 or something, and like 3 other things existed before that were completely different but the same lyrics. Uh, so I guess for me, I'm like, oh, that's just it in another form, and everyone else is like, it's like basically a completely different song, but
It is. It's a different song.
yeah,
To me, to my ears,
yeah,
definitely, in the best way. So there's a little bit of a story behind the recording process, and it has something to do with a haunted mansion in Oklahoma.
yeah. Oh my God, that was such a weird trip. I went to Oklahoma in like March or April, whenever the eclipse was, like
Right.
the full solar one. to a friend's farm. He like grew up on this cow farm, and a bunch of friends went there to see it. And half of us stayed in this like crazy house that was like the judge's inn. And it was just covered in all these pictures of like, I like honestly do not understand what was happening there still. I think that a judge had lived there, and like maybe she had turned it into a B&B eventually or something, but it was like all these news articles on the walls that were framed. Like they were art, but it was about like judges dying in like train accidents, and like all of the rooms were themed in these different ways that were like very confusing. And each of us like chose a room that ended up having elements of our like childhood rooms that we didn't see when we first chose it. So it was like this kind of, it almost felt like it was changing around you. Like I looked around and oh my God, I wish I knew where this was. There was like a lamp there that's actually, it's right over here. I don't know if I can, well, maybe. Wow, this is actually weird seeing this again. This weird cat lamp
Whoa.
was in the room that I was staying in. And I saw it and I was like, what? Like, what are you doing here? Sort of felt like if we did live in a simulation, which like maybe, and like it was glitching, like that was that house as a whole. And I just like could not really sleep there because I have pretty bad insomnia in general. But like, I think that especially there, I was like, no way am I sleeping. And I was trying to like finish songs at that point, and had like this song almost, I guess I had all of the like synth parts of it recorded. It's like it was mostly done, but it just didn't really feel quite there yet. So I was spending the nights just recording like crazy harmonies in like the downstairs bathroom, trying not to wake up everyone else who was staying in this weird haunted mansion. And those are all the ones that I kept. So I'm like a weird field recorder because I like really did not plan to be working on this stuff when I was there. But when you're in a strange haunted place, you have to also become the ghost haunting it, I think. And that's important as a process point.
Wow. So
It was
when
weird.
speaking of the absurd, right? So when you're going into future recordings, do you want to find the strange and weird places to kind of get inspired?
Totally.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I do think, I guess, yeah, I guess that, I mean, this has happened in the time since I like talked to you last, but last year I had a like artist residency outside of Berlin at this place called Biesenthal, which is on a lake, and it's this old abandoned sanatorium that was just so haunted. Like it was incredible. Like I loved it so much. I was there for all of September, and it was 20 artists of like different mediums, from like all over the world that were there at the same time as me. So we were all like, I would call it like elevated squatting, and I mean that lovingly. I did not realize it was going to be like that necessarily, but like I, can do whatever. I can camp. Like I don't need a lot um to make my art either because it's like mostly on a laptop. Um but I feel like being there and making art there for a whole month straight and like kind of being embedded in this really strange like bat ridden, just like crazy old hospital-esque place by a lake made me be like, oh yeah, like I would love to be put in like stranger scenarios and like make art in them because I think it just like kind of embeds itself in what you're making, where like it's almost a dialogue with your surroundings. Um,
wow.
yeah, so I'm pro haunted art making, I think, at this point.
I love that. Um, let's talk about the Stalk, right?
Yeah,
And how did you get together with Joey? And how do you pronounce his last name? Frostad? Is that right?
yeah, good
Okay,
job,
great,
you got
great.
it. We know each other through like a group of friends in Seattle. Like I just kind of met him. Actually, I think that I first met him at a Nick Cave show, which is funny and like very faded. Um, because I went with another friend that was in that crew, and he like also happened to come. And I remember it vividly because like it was a seated thing and we didn't know each other and we like sat beside each other and he didn't really talk the whole time, which I mean, obviously we're at a show. And I feel like afterwards he also didn't really say anything. And I was like, does this guy even like Nick Cave? Like, why is he here? Like, I remember immediately we like, I mean, this is still our relationship, which you'll see if you ever see us on stage, is that I
Yeah.
feel like we have a really wonderful and I don't even know. We have a lot of like banter, which I guess we're not doing on stage, but like I feel like we are just constantly like kind of frictioning. But I also think that it like brings out the best in our music because we're just both like very independent and like pretty stubborn and are just kind of like getting on each other's nerves, but in a great way. Either way, we like originally met there and then like, we're friends and like saw each other at parties and stuff. And then at this summer camp that that group of friends throws, he DJ'd a like sunrise set out in the woods. It's honestly, I don't know if I've talked about this with you either, but we throw like this
Nope.
thing in the woods of Oregon and it's beautiful. It's like in July. It's kind of like a 3-day party basically. That's lovely. But he DJ'd this thing and like by surprise remixed Reborn from Votives. And I was like, whoa, what? And like he just had like snuck it in there as being like a like I'm gonna do this thing and it's gonna blow her mind. And it did. It sounded so sick. And I was like, is this me? Like what like what? Um so I feel like after that we started talking about collaborating because I just really liked the way that he like mixed something that I hadn't really thought of as like a danceable kind of vocal into another song. And yeah, we've been doing it since then, basically.
Did he remix it during his DJ set or he did it at home?
I think he remixed it during it. I mean, I guess he was more like doing a mashup or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was live because I feel like, yeah, it seemed like almost on the fly, where like it could have either happened or not happened. But I'm glad it did. So
Yeah, me too. So tell me more about your partnership. Who does the lyrics? Who does the arranging? Or do you kind of split hairs on who does what?
I do all the lyrics.
Okay.
So I kind of, the way that we've worked thus far has been that I will write a song and like typically have like some synth or like drum or something. Like I'll have something under it, that's kind of like whatever I wrote it with. Um, and then he will start to like create a different arrangement. I don't think that we've ever used like the original one that I used under it. So like he'll start playing around with something different and I'll like play around with singing on top of that and we'll kind of like find some combination. Um yeah. I mean it's really interesting. I've honestly never really like collaborated with anyone. So I think that and he hasn't really either. So I feel like we've been like still finding our footing of like how to approach it every time, but he's basically in charge of like instrumentation and I'm like all of the vocals and a little bit more of the like song structuring where I'll definitely have ideas of like, these are the sections that I like think that things should be like changing within or like different parts to emphasize lyrically. But it's been really fun because I like just get to focus on vocals and like crazy looping and layering and that's the part that I like get the most psyched about with Old Man of the Woods too. So it's pretty fun to just like fully be like, cool, you can go crazy with your drum machines and I'll just be over here like making 20 loops over each other. Um, yeah.
And you got Venus and Virgo, and you have the Bruce Springsteen rework. What's the name of that song?
Dancing in the Dark.
Dancing in the Dark. Right.
Yeah.
So, what are your plans for 2025 and beyond with Stalk?
we are so close to being done with our first two EPs. I feel like we just have been like almost done with them for a long time now. So we need to just finish it and be like, we're not reworking these anymore and we're going to put them out. So I feel like that one of them I'm expecting will come out like March or something. Like I feel like we're kind of aiming for like a late winter situation. Or maybe we'll start releasing like singles and kind of waterfalling them. We haven't quite figured out what we're doing, but we have like a lot of things that are kind of like almost ready to come down the pipe. Uh, and they are a lot of the songs that I was writing the lyrics for at Biesenthal, like the artist residency that I was talking about. Um, so yeah, I'm really excited. I feel like that's definitely, I guess we've been playing them all live this whole time. So like in my mind, people know our sound, but in reality, like it's not online. And like you would really only know what we sound like if you've like been seeing us around. So I'm psyched to like be able to share that with more people that aren't in Seattle because I feel like it's a really unique and also kind of like genre defying space that we're existing in. That hopefully people get psyched about too. So
Yeah. Well, so like with Votives, right? And it's very danceable, right? I think that album was a lot more danceable. Then you go into the Stalk, which is like full on trance, dark house. Um, have you always been into electronic music, dance music growing up, or was it moving to Seattle that really like moved you in that
hmm,
direction?
I have been into kind of the more electronic side of stuff for a while. Um, I feel like when I was younger, like high school, middle school, I was much more of a like probably like indie rock folksy gal. Um, but in college, I did the classic thing of studying abroad in Berlin and then deciding that you love electronic music.
Yes,
You
Kraftwerk, let's
know,
go.
it's a great awakening place for being like, whoa, yeah, this is crazy. And like, I feel like it's very different to like go to a space where you like feel like bass in your bones, you know, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, I like thought that it was fun before, but I didn't get how like kind of transformative and like visceral it could be
Yeah.
as an experience. So yeah, I definitely think that that like woke me up to being really interested in that as a genre. Um, and then yeah, I guess I've like continued to go back there, and I think in Seattle I found more of a scene that's like obviously not Berlin, but kind of, you know, I think that there are a lot of people who are like really interested in more of like raves and like warehousey stuff, or at least more so than was happening in Richmond. So I probably have like embedded in it more so now, where it's like most of what I'm hearing, you know. Um, yeah.
When you
So,
studied abroad in Germany, what were you listening to?
ooh, trying to think of who was playing around at places. Um, I mean, I guess it was probably like honestly, I like I'm so bad at genres that I like really don't know. It was definitely like techno-y stuff. Like I remember going to like Tresor my first night there, which is one of those like big warehousey places, and being like, hell yeah, this is crazy. I cannot see anyone. It's just like pure like fog and just like hard ass techno. Um, so I think I was, yeah, listening to that, but I don't actually, I wasn't like very aware of what, like, who the DJs were, I guess. Um, yeah, but I guess a lot of techno is basically, yeah, a lot of like industrial stuff. Um, yeah, more of that side of things.
Who are you listening to now in that realm of the world? Electronic as a whole, not just like the trance and dark deep
Yeah.
house stuff.
I feel like the band that I like definitely became just so obsessed with this year is PVA.
Yeah,
Like
from England, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love them. I saw them in Seattle maybe at the beginning of the year, like maybe in January or something, and like had never heard of them, but a friend's band was opening for them. And it was like a Monday and I happened to go and they just like blew me away completely. Like I feel like they are such a fun, like I guess kind of like post-punk, you know, whatever combination of things, and are just so like their energy is so infectious and like I don't even know, I don't know what other word to use, but I don't know. They're very like they're kind of like transcendent experience to watch because they're just like kind of mad, or like it just feels like very raw and just like kind of gets you feeling like, whoa, I could like do anything in this moment.
Yeah.
Um so I love them. I love Boy Harsher.
Yeah.
I feel like they're like a big influence for sure.
Pain makes the
Um
rhythm.
yeah, yep. um who else have I been listening to a lot? Like Linnea Aspera. I never know if I'm saying their name right, but kind of like more on the Boy Harsher side of things is great. Like Lebanon Hanover. Yeah, I feel like I've been getting down a real like kind of dark, wavy, post punky, industrial side of things this year. And that's
Yeah.
been what I kind of like just listen to all the time. Um, which has been fun.
What about Ella Minus? You know about her?
No.
I think I sent you some of her work. She is tremendous. She has a lot of like dark, housey type of stuff.
Cool.
Very existential type of lyrics, almost like yourself. Really good stuff.
Nice.
I think you would really like her. Like I imagine like a DJ set. I'll hear Ella Minus, then throw in the Stalk. You know, it's a little
Oh yeah.
symbiotic in that way. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well I will definitely listen now.
Yeah.
Um,
She's got a new album coming out in the new year. So yeah.
Sick.
But her first album
Awesome.
from 4 years ago, great stuff.
Okay, I'll definitely get in there. Yeah, I love the existential mixed with like hard. I just feel like that is such a fun. There's like nothing that I love more than being on like a dance floor and it being like this meditative experience, because I think that that's
Yeah.
so much of what I get out of that scene, and like that as an activity is just like it's almost like things are so loud and you're like moving so much that you like finally can kind of like work through whatever's going on in your brain. Um, yeah, I think other than like writing music itself, like that is probably one of the most like kind of meditative therapeutic things I do. And other than therapy, but like, yeah, but like
Of
that,
course.
that trifecta is great.
What about craft work?
I do. I mean, yeah, I love Kraftwerk is also great for sure. I don't
Yeah.
actually listen to them a ton right now though. I should get back in there.
I can't stop. I
Nice.
can't stop listening to it. Like Autobahn, the 20-minute epic.
Hell yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's tremendous stuff. Really just transports you into another century and another galaxy far, far away. Yeah.
I feel like I've been having more of like a Bowie moment again for some reason. I
Okay.
honestly recently watched The Labyrinth again with a friend and she had never seen it, which was like the most fun because I feel like that movie is just like so surreal and wonderful and like absurd in all the ways that we've been talking about. Um, uh, and now I do feel like I'm like very much searching for anything that feels like another little planet because I'm like, oh my God, I want that feeling again. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think like in the same way that like showing someone like an album that they haven't heard and then like being there when they listen to it, like being there when someone saw all the like crazy little goblin creatures in that movie and then being like, whoa, I was like, yes.
Yeah. Do you have you ever seen that clip of David Bowie talking to somebody from MTV, and he was like, "Why don't you play any black artists?" And he was just kind of grilling him about that, and I thought that was really
Ooh.
cool. Like I gained a lot more respect for Bowie watching that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Cool. Good. I'm glad that he's good in all realms and not just in being a little freak in movies and in his
in
albums.
all realms, amazing. Amazing. Your vernacular is incredible. Ever since you started making that dark house wave, now you're talking about transporting to other realms and stuff like that. I love it. I love it. Keep going down that path.
Uh,
I'm excited. So, talk to me about if there are any challenges of having two musical projects happening at the same time, like Old Man of the Woods and the Stalk and whatever else you got going on in other realms. So,
yeah, I mean, God, we can't even get into that.
yeah.
It's hard. I mean, it's really exciting in that like abundance is exciting, you know? Like I think I would always rather have too much happening than not enough as a person, which will like probably be my downfall also. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that like they are symbiotic in a lot of ways and that like we're playing out as the stock. I'm meeting people who like also would like Old Man of the Woods and like vice versa. Like I think that they're different kinds of music, but also like pretty similar in like at least like themes or something, Like I think the stock is much more long form journeys and Old Man of the Woods is a little bit more like poppy. I don't know. I feel like it's like short bursts of like poppier stuff and the stock is kind of a little bit more like you're in a basement for a long time energy.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't always appeal to the same people. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's really fun getting to like explore two different sounds. And the hard parts are just that like having even one music project and like working a full-time job. And I was actually in school also until this June, and I finally graduated, which great, did it.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with your new master's degree?
Nothing yet, but hopefully something eventually.
What is it in? UI, UX?
Yeah, basically it's human-centered design and engineering. So like, yeah, kind of just UX design things. Yeah, it was really interesting and like I definitely learned a lot, but that plus working plus two music projects, I was like, I'm gonna lose my mind. Like this is way too much.
Yeah.
So I think it's like I'm trying to find more of like a longevity balance now of like how to do it all and not just burn out because I do kind of think that that's a little bit of like the exact place that I'm in right now. But like being home and sleeping for a bit will help and then we'll start playing shows again and finish our album. Yeah.
Right, exactly. At least you don't have that, that grind of what grad school is. That's kind of
Yeah,
off your shoulders. Now you can just
totally.
focus on work and music, which is great, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, Miranda, I appreciate you coming on My Little Underground. It was so great to catch up with you. I hope to see you again in the flesh soon.
Definitely.
Yeah. And use this time to plug anything you got going on, be it Old Man of the Woods and the Stalk.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, I mean, follow us on Insta. It's Old Man of the Woods with a period between every word. Still haven't figured out how to say that in a better way. And the stock with a period after the and the S and T. I'm like, I don't know why I made this so hard for myself. You'll be able to find them. They're all like linked together.
Yeah.
And I hope to come back to New York soon too. I think it'd be really fun to like play some shows there and do more of like an East Coast situation. So that's hopefully in the works as well. Maybe like over the summer or something.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Miranda. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
My Little Underground.